Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the latest edition of the Quantum Compass, where we take a fortnightly preview on the incoming Trisana or 13-day Wavespell of the Tzolkin Mayan calendar, interposed with all of the important cosmological and astrological coordinates. My name is, of course, Davyd.
And I'm Bella, and we also include some plans that can help us to navigate better that wave spell or a process of 13 days.
Right, so as always, Quantum Compass has been a unique and somewhat heady mix of plants and plant medicine along with astrological coordinates. It used to be in the tropical system. We're now working with the 13 sign true sidereal astrology. As many of you know, we made a switch before. And of course, we have all of the other incredibly complex layers of the Tzolkin and indeed the Mayan calendar in general that Bella brings to the mix. But this is an important one, right, Bella? This is the incoming Wavespell of the Blue Magnetic Storm from February the 26th to March the 10th. And it includes a full moon lunar eclipse and two Cazimis with a whole bunch of other interesting bits and pieces for us to all decode, digest, and hopefully navigate through and with.
Let's share the presentation and we'll do a review of what is happening in the current wave spell as we're completing this one, which is the White Wall Bridger wave spell. So what has been happening in the world, and how are we going to actually process or jump to the next part? Or because it's always a story that is unfolding. So the wave spell that we're going to focus on later on is running from February 26th up to March the 10th. But first, I wanted to do a review of what happened in the last in this current wave spell, where we had many calendars aligning with the past solar eclipse. We had the Chinese year, which began on February the 17th, which is ushering the year of the horse. And the fire horse symbolizes strength, innovative leadership. Fire horses are also seen as trailblazers who disrupt the status quo to create something new. And that's very much where we're at when we when we connect to the astrology as well. When we look at the ancient Mayan count in the Guatemala area, there is a solar year that also started on the 18th of February with a year bearer energy of Manic, or it could be the deer or the hand, which is all representing the guardians of the forest and nature, of the mountains, of healing and stability. The Islamic calendar also started Ramadan around this period, which is when they start fasting. The Tibetan and Buddhist New Year also fell on February the 18th. So you can see how many different calendars were taking this new moon that we just had with the eclipse to continue and realign. So we're seeing how even time is now changing as well, the way we experience time. We also had the Ash Wednesday on February the 18th, which is a Christian
it's a Christian celebration, but it's also the beginning of the Celtic tree calendar. It's the Ash Moon, began on Ash Wednesday, which has got nothing to do with the ash tree, but I think that's interestingly coincidental.
The other thing that was interesting is that both in the tropical and the sidereal astrology, there was an alignment because both fell in Aquarius, in the sign of Aquarius, the new moon solar eclipse that happened on the last February 17. And I thought that I would just recap a few of these events because they are monumental and they are the next wave of energy that are keep on pushing us up the ascension ladder, basically. The other very important event that happened on February the 20th was the Neptune-Saturn conjunction, which actually happened in Pisces when you look at the true sidereal constellational astrology. And what that conjunction is symbolizes is like making magic real. Merging structure with imagination, grounding the spiritual ideals is a whole new cycle, which is bridging boundaries and dreams, highlighting themes of compassionate restructuring, exposing the illusions that we have seen with the monarchies, with the politicians, with the Epstein files. Everything that is being exposed is part of this. It's also bringing more of the creative and spiritual maturity for us. And what it's inviting us to do for this big news cycle is to bring more discipline to our spiritual practices, to bring more creativity and emotional healing. I think the masses, the collective, as they see the amount of disclosure and information that is pretty dark, there's going to be a need for emotional healing with the amount of unveiling truths, because we're dismantling at this point illusions, propaganda, deception, corruption, and everything that we're seeing through different institutions, governments, monarchies, and more. So it feels like it's a moment that is starting a whole new cycle of healing, and we need empathy for that. That's why all of this is happening in Pisces. And it's a good focus to navigate grief with compassion and take care of the vulnerable, because there are so many people that haven't done a lot of the spiritual work, have not been connected to any conspiracy theories. And so many of those things are going to come as a wave of cognitive dissonance, and like their realities is going to be pretty much collapsing. So many systemic shifts, possible restructuring of many areas. With Neptune, it could be connected to water, oil, hospitals and pharma, media and entertainment. So I do see that there will be many changes and much more disclosure around all of those things. And finally, that big transit, I think, encourages a balance between facing the harsh realities, Saturn, and maintaining faith and compassion, which is what Neptune was showing us.
Right, and we'll come to this in the charts a little bit later on, but we actually just realized today, just before we were recording this, when we were doing all of our research, that as of today, literally in this moment that we are recording, we are in a triple bang conjunction in the astrology of not only Saturn and Neptune, but lo and behold, Yeshua.
The asteroid.
The asteroid Yeshua with the two fishes in Pisces. As this great resetting is happening, it's being directed literally by the Christ consciousness. Yes. Hidden, I think, from a view by most of us, but if you look deeply enough, the evidence is right there. And it kind of supports a lot of the energy that many of us have been feeling. The Christ consciousness is very present. I wouldn't say the second coming per se, but that's how it's viewed in the biblical terms, is in the ethers. If you go into journey space, you can feel these things. Now, whether you're religious or not, that's not the point. It's about a frequency shift. And I think that that is a really important sign. All of which kind of leads us into the realms of healing, because the blue storm is here to surely show us that things in our world need catalyzing. They need to come down. We need to release up the density, the liquidity in the density, so that we can get spiritual uplift. That's usually called release, transformation, alchemy, and healing. And lo and behold, here we have Nature's Gift, a quantum plant healing first aid kit for the collapse of the matrix, and indeed the ensuing internal personal collapse that comes with this, because we have internally, as part of the fractal system, also the matrix is embedded within us, and we need to remove that. What better way than working truly with nature, because it has all of the remedies, all of the solutions, everything that has afflicted us as a society, physically, mentally, emotionally, always starts off in the etheric realms and comes into our physical body. So working with plants can be both healing, even in the physical body, but it can also work as preventative medicine to stop any unfortunate other energies entering our field. And today's plant is very good at doing that. But most of all, we wish to highlight this because many of our tribe have now done Nature's Gift and have rolled on into what the Ascended Master Zachariah, can move on, really asked us to put out, which is Star Soul Activation. It's coming in the form of the Sacred Book of Nature. How and why? Well, without giving too many disclaimers, what we can say is that we are all in the Sacred Book of Nature being asked to elevate to the level of being channels of ourselves and of the higher star soul beings that we are connected to. However, you need to have done some organization on the internal planes, as our tribe has been doing for a while, which is why Zach indicated that we've been kind of selected in some ways for this process because we're ready for it, and everybody is invited to this process, but it requires that internal investigation to align all of your multidimensional self. It's not a passive activity. It's something you have to actively engage in. And once you do engage in it, it actually turns out to be reasonably fun once you understand the direction of travel, right, Bella?
Yeah, and this is a 13-volume book. It's in the form of a story, an audiobook. It has some visuals as well. But more than anything, it takes you from not knowing anything about plants and going back to basics through a whole beautiful journey to reconnect with nature and reconnect with New Earth.
And it's being really conducted in and with quantum energy intelligence, and within the quantum field, the sacred book of nature is truly New Earth and is being transmitted to us. We are receiving it and sharing it with our tribe as channels. Nature is being channeled through not just us, but also other tribe members. Many people stepping up to receive their activations. And this is open to everybody, but really and truly, nature's gift is the reach to first aid kit for those moments when suddenly it all gets a bit too much. And perhaps this storm period is where that might happen, because we need to move through this. And once we do, it's all good on the other side. It's just a little bit of inner work for our own benefits.
The other thing we wanted to share is that there are families doing this with their children and teenagers, and it's for all ages. Everybody can share the book and go into it, and they will learn many things about plants and much more. It's a whole
And that's not to say that it's set at a basic level for children. It is reachable to children, as we know our tribe members are doing it, but also at the adult level, it's full of esoteric downloaded transmissions that you will receive into your field. And if you meditate with, will get activated with. It's super, super powerful.
Right, so we'll move on now to the Mayan cosmology, and we are still in the resonant seed year. And what I've seen is that there have been so many alignments that have allowed us the activation and attunement, because that is what the resonant seed year is about. It's about attuning ourselves to the cosmos as well, and to start flourish as cosmic humans. And that's what we've been seeing with everything that happened with 3i Atlas. We know that it's reaching the final destination in Jupiter in March 16th. So we'll cover that in the next Wavespell. But we are all kind of getting ready for the process that is coming with this Wavespell and leading into the equinox. So we're still following the 13 moons. We're still in moon number 8, which is the galactic moon. And it's a galactic moon of integrity. It's a moon that is going to end on March 6th. And it's all to do with integration of the process of the last 7 months and harmonizing with the highest timeline, which is what we've been talking about all of this time. The best question for this moon is, how do I resonate harmoniously with the golden timeline for New Earth? And the totem for this moon is still the hawk. We actually had a hawk come a couple of times this week. And the hawk is the divine messenger. It brings wisdom. It reconnects us to our intuition, to a higher perspective, to spiritual alertness, strength, and protection.
Yes, indeed. A really beautiful bird. It literally lives in a tree in the garden next door to us, but it's been very, very present. And to see this really beautiful bird command the neighborhood, this really is the apex, I think, avian predator in this neighborhood. And it stands and watches over the whole neighborhood. And we watched the other day as it sat on the antennae outside of our house, as if to say, there's a new management team in town, as it called out literally to the 4 directions. It turned and faced each directions and squawked for a while. Maybe it was about 20 minutes it sat there and did that.
And the important thing with this totem is that it brings messages from the spirit realm. So we've been paying a lot of attention to the messages with the birds these last few days.
Absolutely stunning.
So from the moons, we're in the 8th moon, and now we're going to talk about the actual Wavespell, which is the Wavespell of the storm, and we're going from Kin 79 up to Kin 91. We have 2 galactic activation portals on Kin 85 and Kin 88, which is an amazing day. 88 as numerology is important, but it's also a manifestation day with the star, which represents Venus. And Venus has now become visible in her cycle, becoming an evening star. This happened in this current Wavespell as well. Many things happen in the current Wavespell. So let's go into the Wavespell of the storm. The Blue Magnetic Storm brings many things. Purification, change and disruption. We can expect things to happen in the big picture, whether it is through politics or through governments or in our personal lives as well. But all of this is a catalyzing energy that will allow us to keep on moving forward. And it will bring self-generation, the light body activation, reconnecting to who we truly are and being these thunder beings, and transformation as a whole, leading to full realization. There is a lot of energy in the collective at this moment after all of the amount of disclosure, and there is more coming out. We just heard that there is going to be a UFO and ET disclosure as well at the government level. We've all been like going down these rabbit holes for a long time, but the collective hasn't. The same as with the Epstein files and how they affect governments, corporations, intelligence, military, everything is connected to all of these information. So many people will be integrating all of this big storm that is in the horizon. And on day one of this wave spell, we have Mercury going retrograde, meaning that we're going to have to review a lot of this information. For many of you, probably that have done the same kind of research that we have, maybe there won't be many new things, but for the collective, it will be a big wave spell. The shadow to pay attention to over these 13 days is fear of the unknown, which is what many people will be fearful of. Also addictions, coping mechanisms, people will probably go into substances because of the shocks. So we need to pay attention to that shadow over these 13 days. Being in denial, many people can go into cognitive dissonance. So we want to be holding space for the collective. They could go into futility and despair. That's also something for us to be paying attention to. Pay attention to self-judgment as well. Every time we judge somebody else, we're also judging ourselves. So that's another thing to take into account. Like whatever that has happened and has happened to other people, we need to be mindful and compassionate at this point, because at some point in our incarnations, we've all gone through many processes. So compassion, I would say, is something that can be added to this wave spell. For transformation, just the idea is to carry on with this process of purification. We're going to get yet another strong wave that will take us yet to another level in this ascension process. The ascension process started last October with the convergence of timelines, and it's just ramped up pretty much month after month. But these astrological points have really made it like the eclipses, for example, the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, and there is more to come. So as usual for the wave spell, just define a purpose. Is there something that you need to change, let go of, catalyze in your life? This is a good moment to do it. So any themes like purification, maybe a detox, changes in your life that need to happen, and you've been kind of just letting them roll and you just don't make the decision. This is a good wave spell to move forward with many things. We can see here that the day of manifestation is with the yellow star, which represents Venus. So we have support to do this process. And then day by day, you just follow, you journal, you ask yourself a question, and you tune into the energy of that day. Because what the Mayan were very wise about is how to read the energies of the day and how to use that energy, whether it was for agriculture, for relationships, or for anything that they needed. Did you want to mention this one?
Well, just that we have this ongoing on our website with QPW. You can always check into the 13 steps of the Ascension Ladder. They are contained in the Sacred 13, each part of this incredible journey that Bella put together a couple of years ago now, actually, is really how we as a tribe and as individuals have learnt the essential qualities of the 13 tones. And when you understand the magnetic tone all the way through to the cosmic tone, you have the full ascendancy steps in front of you. It's the plan. And the more that you embody those tones, and particularly following the quantum compass or working with the Alchemy of the Sacred 13 workshop, the more you start to become a quantum navigator, which is really what this show is all about. This is really gold dust, I think.
So with this navigation guide to quantum consciousness, you learn about sacred geometry, numerology, and the galactic tones, and how you can journey through the 13 dimensions and how to manifest your new reality. So it is
rich.
Good. And then we'll move to the astrology. I'm just going to touch on just the bigger picture. Davyd will go more in detail about the different aspects. But on the 26th of February, which is day one of the wave spell of the storm, Mercury goes retrograde. And with Mercury retrograde in Pisces, it is a period of introspection and reflection, a time to pause and reassess. I do see a new wave of information and disclosure coming, so I think many people are going to have to stop and review and digest all that huge amount of information. And I wanted to add the ecliptic here is the red line, so you can see where things are happening. The sun is still in Aquarius in the real true sky constellational astrology. Then we see Venus just a little bit farther ahead, Mercury and Saturn. So since we are still in Aquarius in the 13th sign astrology, in the 13 signs, Aquarius goes from February 14th up to March the 9th. So if your birthday falls on these dates, it's actually Aquarius. That is, the sun is in Aquarius, so you'd be more of an Aquarian person. This happened to one of my friends that didn't realize, and her birthday was on the conjunction of Neptune and Saturn. So big moment for her as well. Many realizations and many changes. And with Aquarius and with all of the signs, what I've been trying to do is to review the archetypes because as a collective, we are trying to evolve and astrology needs to evolve as well. We can't be repeating the same archetypes of over 2000 years ago if they don't apply to this current moment where we have jumped into the ascension ladder. So what I see with the energy of Aquarius is more of a feminine, humane, loving and innovative energy that is more humanitarian, that is more water, connected to the water, because it is pouring water, what we see in the constellation and what is in the archetype and in the collective consciousness. And even the name at the time in February, the Roman festival was of purification, which matches the Wavespell that we're currently going to go into. So there's going to be purification, whether we like it or
We're
not.
all going to be a lot more pure at the end of this.
And renewal. And so whether this happens through the disclosure and the amount of information coming through water and disruptions with water, we've seen massive amounts of flooding in many different countries that are not being reported in the news, but it's happening in so many countries. So I do see many changes happening, and our emotional field is going to be very much affected.
Yeah, that's all really on point, isn't it? The purification, and I really concur with what you're saying. Maybe this version of Aquarius is a little less jarring on the senses than the more sort of technocratic version that we've so far seemingly been offered up as a done deal.
Yeah. And let's remember that the eclipse happened in Aquarius as well, a new moon with solar eclipse. So it marked a whole new beginning as well. I do see that as a very big new beginning of the age of Aquarius. Many people change the day. They don't know exactly what it is. But to me, this represented the beginning of the age of Aquarius.
And you know what? Just on those points there a minute, Abel, if you just go back just before we move on, I lose the point. Mercury goes direct. Guess when? Spring equinox on the day. And I like to think that, in this moment, there are two realities I feel being offered up for the collective. One I feel is more Bella's interpretation of the Aquarius, which is more heart-centered, more with the uplift of the emotions being resolved, but in connection with our emotions, all of the water being our emotions. And then there's a more technocratic, I would say narcissistic, unemotional version that is being offered up. And I think perhaps
it's here as the artificial matrix and the organic matrix.
Yes, I think so. And the two initially, even now, they're both in play. They are both in play. To many eyes, would it seem indistinguishable. And I think that is part of the great process of us ensuring that we don't get tricked again by what our ears hear, our eyes see, our nose smells, and whatever we're presented with. But actually, we go inwards and let the resonating chamber that is our body tell us whether that's something that's a truth for us or not.
And we've been talking for quite a while, about balancing of masculine and feminine. And so when we see now this age of Aquarius as more in balance, we can see this process of eternal wisdom pouring down for all, now that we've invited the goddess energy to be paired with the masculine. So I do see this as a whole new beginning. So many people doing spiritual work. And I think we're all ready to hold space for the collective so we can move forward. It's a beautiful
It's
image.
almost like she's pouring heaven out of the vase down to earth. It fits with many different symbology and archetypes we've been tracking over the recent months.
Then I wanted to mention the Celestial Parade on February the 28th. I like to call it a parade because it's not an alignment as such. We'll see them in the sky more as a parade. And we see Mars will be here in Aquarius, and we'll see the Sun is here, Venus, Mercury retrograded in Pisces, and Saturn is still also in Pisces. So many people are talking about alignment, but it's actually moving forward, seeing them on the ecliptic. The other thing that I found interesting is that the year of the horse has happened here as the sun is in Aquarius, but look how the Pegasus and the little horse are very much in the vicinity of here. So I think that when ancient cultures chose the constellations and what kind of archetypes to use, many of them saw similar things, and maybe the Chinese astrology did see the Pegasus head or the little horse, or at least connected to that energy, and that's why they used the horse. I don't know, but I just thought that was a nice synchronicity.
Right, and before I'll let you finish, and then I'll go into that,
Okay,
please.
this is my last one, and then David's going to go into the details of the astrology. Then we have March 3rd with the total lunar eclipse, and it's a blood moon. And what is happening? It's in Leo, by the way. It's a blood moon, which again represents profound transformation, emotional release, and the illumination of subconscious patterns. It's what this eclipse occurs when the Earth blocks the sunlight from hitting the moon, and it becomes a celestial catalyst for closing chapters, ending relationships, initiating necessary and often fated, and then many life changes. So there could be many life changes for many of us, but especially for the collective. I see that we're going to be presented with many big changes that maybe people weren't even expecting.
Right, yeah. It's always a powerful time to be between the eclipses. But before anybody messages in, because we've already had the emails from people, the Chinese zodiac system is indeed on a 12 system. And so one bright spark. I'm going to give a shout out to tribal sister Belinda for looking into this one. There is a 13 sign
Yeah, good
system
one.
zodiac, and the Vietnamese use it. And guess which animal was left out? According to our tribal contact, she says it was the cat, which for those of you who follow stellar nations will know that this links us to the great felines, which links us to the goddess.
Nice.
So good work there, Sister Belinda. We will be looking into that in a bit more detail. But if anyone has any further information about a 13 sign zodiac system coming from the more Asian, Far Eastern countries, please do let us know, as our continuing investigation into the world of the 13 moons and the sacred 13 continues. So here we are at the major astrological transits of the blue storm, and there are quite a few. So we'll just have a look at the overview first, and then we'll have a look at the charts for the full moon. So here we go, Bella. On the first day, as you said, Mercury is going retrograde in Pisces, as we can see. It's only just in Pisces, so I imagine it's going to retro back into Aquarius over these next 3 weeks, and then go direct again on the spring, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, equinox.
And with Mercury in Pisces, we can think of our imagination getting more downloads, getting more connected, more poetic, and
Right.
empathic communication. Let's just be careful during the retrograde on the communication we have with our loved ones, so we're not triggering each other. But it could also it will make us be more mindful as well.
Yes, all true. So invoking the inner bard, the inner Taliesin, is very much part of the motif of the moment. It's certainly in the tribal we are being guided to do, to try and let the inner, true, authentic self speak with its own voice, not one that comes through a hijacked ego matrix mind and distorts our true self. So this is a very interesting process, and everything Bella has been talking about, we've actually been experiencing through the dissolution of the perceptions of ourself and the revealing, as indeed the Ascending Master Zach indicated, of our star soul memories, which is really another way of saying that our intergalactic DNA is getting activated. And as that happens, with all of the light coming in, the memories start to return, very profound, very expansive, and is very much coming to everybody. I suspect with this blue storm as a catalyzer. So in the middle of all of this, on day 2 of this Wavespell, not only do we have Mercury conjuncting Venus in Pisces, just up here already very close on the first day, but as that happens, the Sun conjuncts the North Node. So Mercury conjuncting Venus in Pisces, as he starts to go backwards, he's picking up a message from Venus, something to do with the heart and how Venus interacts with the watery depths of the emotions and all of these things. But at the same time, the Sun is having a conversation with our direction of travel, whilst at the same time having a conversation with where we've come from. Because of course, if it's conjuncting North Node, it's opposing the South Node. All of which is important as we learn how to balance past self and future self with present self. This is very much part of the energy of the moment, the free norms, the free fates, the Triskel. It's all about managing past, present, and future.
Yeah.
Our intuition is our future self, giving us the clues as to what's coming next. That's why it's so important to listen to our intuition. Our past self gives us the traumas of the past, manifesting often through life situations, challenges, not to be resisted or dodged, but to be acknowledged with compassion for the aspect of ourself that is still stuck in those spaces that need healing. For everything is simultaneous, it's all happening at once. And once we understand that, we can actually have a very clear, bountiful and positive relationship both with our past self and our future self. Because once one has been healed, the future self is secure because it knows that it's still going to be okay because the past has been resolved, and we get to be the moderator, mediator, quantum witness in the middle, holding both of that. And that applies to all of us and applies to the collective with our shared hidden history. The reason we can't see it is because it's shrouded in trauma and PTSD and God knows what else. All of which, as Bella pointed out, is getting revealed with the ever-expanding disclosure. And of course, it's not in this Wavespell, but on, I think, March the 16th, Atlas is in a three-eye flyby with Jupiter, who, coincidentally enough, goes direct just a few days before, all of which seems very well organized, to my mind anyway. So as we move through, not only do we have Sun conjuncting North Node on the 27th of Feb, so just a few days away as we're recording this, Mars in Aquarius squares Uranus in Taurus, also a pretty epic square, I would say. That tends to suggest a little bit of fireworks and forward motion to my mind. Uranus, the planet of sudden unexpected change, and Mars, often the progenitor of very fiery, forceful change, tends to suggest that a change perhaps is going to come out of that.
Unexpected changes, disruptions.
Yes.
But it's also a good opportunity for us. Remember, every aspect we can use. That's what we navigate through those. And what we can use it for is to think outside of the box and to find new solutions, and to also realize that we can work with the collective and help others and come up with new ideas that are different solutions for the collective, for example.
And you know what's interesting, Bella, is that those two energies very much to me speak of the storm energy of the catalyzer, but also with the lunar tone. And lo and behold, it happens on the day of the lunar sun in day 2. So Mars in Aquarius, that sudden change against Uranus, Taurus, Sun conjunct in the North Node. What's the plan for the future? Well, we need to look at the past to make sure that it's been healed. That's the job of Venus, really, in Pisces, making sure that it's all been evened out. And as Mercury goes back, he hands the baton to Venus, says, all right, I've got the intel. This is what we've learned. I've spoken to the old boys, Neptune and Saturn at some point. We've got the intel, Let's get this ball rolling. So we then have the full moon lunar eclipse in Leo to help us along with that. Happens at 11:34 UTC, about 5:30 here's Central Time. And that feels pretty significant, Bella. I think you've got some notes on this one, right?
I think what we've been already mentioning on purification of at a personal level, but the collective as well. The fact that it's in Leo tells me that all of these royalties and monarchies that are being exposed in Norway, in England, and in many other countries are being exposed for what they have done. So we had the solar eclipse. We saw this big figure from the UK. Mr. Andrew. And then now we have more exposure, I think, because it is in Leo. And I think we're going to see the rest of what is connected to children and everything that they've done. So I think it's a big moment and we need to be ready for the storm.
Yes, surprisingly to me, there are still people out there who believe the conspiracy theorists got it wrong and there are no conspiracies. I think those people might have a little bit of a shock during this wave spell, to be honest. But anyway, we are where we all are for whatever reasons. As we move through into the second half of this wave spell, we have a Mercury Cazimi on the day of manifestation. But Mercury will be in retro as it gets combusted. Perhaps could be a little disorientating for old Mercury as he's going backwards through the sky. He gets bopped by the sun on the way, just to add to his confusion. That could be a day of slightly contorted, fiery messages, perhaps also with that review energy. This is one coming from the past. Booyaka, have a piece of that, Mr. Mountbatten Windsor, whatever name you're going by. All of this is incoming, and I think that it's all part of the great resetting. And if we can learn anything about this moment, it's about the need for non-duality, for unconditional love and compassion, and to understand that the scales of Mat swing backwards and forwards from one life to another. And it might be easy to sit in self-righteous judgment in this life where you feel that you are a good person.
Yeah.
I'm sure if the files on your life were all revealed, there would be some things that you would probably all not want people to know about. That's just the nature of life as we move through into the next space. So I just use that as an example. I'm sure, hopefully, everybody watching this has nothing in their locker like the people in the big files. But just to say that, people change. People can be perhaps not the nicest person in their life, and they can go through a spiritual experience at some point, be reduced down to their true essence, and have a rebirth. This is true for anybody, and I just offer this as a reminder that even if we don't like certain individuals who might be in the news at the moment, we have to remember that this is all just part of the great experiment that we all signed up for. And ultimately, it requires a lot more of that non-dual compassion to be able to see all of these things that are being revealed and somehow say, well, okay, I'm sure that this is all going to balance out in the end. And it's not for me to get all wound up about. But just to hold a very balanced central space, and the planet that's for this way spell will help us with that. Any thoughts, Bella?
Well, I see that Black Moon Lilith there in Scorpio is more of that because it is squaring the nodes. So humanity can move forward until we see what we didn't want to see, or many people didn't want to see. Because now that it's the time of creation, we need to be able to see what didn't work, how low many beings went, and what repair work needs to be done, what healing needs to be done, maybe for many victims, so that we rebuild and we all as humanity learn the lessons of the past and the dark ages, because they were really dark ages that we are now coming out to the next cycle, which is the galactic day after the galactic night, 13,000 years, and now we're moving to another 13,000 years.
So we have a very, very, I would say, strong manifestation day in this Wavespell because we have that Mercury Cazimi that's in retro. We have Venus conjuncting Neptune in Pisces after having that little flyby conversation, excuse me, with Mercury. But also that day, as Bella's just highlighted, which very much kind of alludes to the situations we've just been referring to, Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio squares the nodes. So after the Sun has conjuncted the North Node and opposed the South Node, it's almost like Black Moon Lilith comes in and says, all right, really and truly, the Sun knows a lot about a lot of things, but I know a lot about the depths of the underworld, and I'm here to make sure that we have scoured both the future and the past to make sure that they are now fully clear. Lilith is feeling much better about herself these days, having done her underworld journey and having returned, I would say, to a more resplendent goddess version of herself. But her days in the underworld were well spent because she learned a lot from those denizens of the deep, and she knows everything about all of them. And she has the solutions for all of them. And I think that this square is going to put those underworld powers, what's left of them, probably under the last amount of pressure that they're going to be able to take right before we come up to that flyby, in fact. So ordinarily, I'd be a little worried about a Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio squaring the nose, but this actually feels like the final bit of cleanup, Bella. Any thoughts on that one?
I think that we also have Venus is going to be moving into Pisces during this wave spell.
Yeah.
And as she moves into Pisces, we bring more compassion because it's going to be needed for both perpetrators and victims and for the whole of humanity as we move together. Because that is the whole idea of the reset happening in Aquarius, is that we move as a collective, and we remember the spiritual connection. so that we feel that we're all interconnected, and this is part of the process. Until we understand and forgive what happened in the past, then we can reconnect fully in our hearts to move into the next part, which requires a lot of empathy. And what is also going to spark that Venus in Pisces, I think, is a lot of imagination. We've been using our imagination to put it all into this created project, which is the sacred book of nature. So there is a lot of imagination from us, from the tribe, and channel messages from our guides as well. So I do see a lot of that. Very
Right,
supportive.
yeah, and you were just saying, so this is the beginning of the Wavespell, 26th of February, this
Yeah.
chart, and we can see here that Venus has literally just crossed over into the first degree. So I imagine this is probably going to happen the day before that Venus enters a Pisces. So Venus gets that message from Mercury as he's scrolling backwards, so to speak. She then gets the gist of what Mercury's picked up during his time in Pisces, chatting to the old boys Neptune and Saturn. And then Venus continues on the journey and meets, first of all, Neptune, and then she meets Saturn just a few days after, I think. I feel basically, Bella, give the news about the new management system.
Yeah.
Pisces, in general, has been softening the old boy Saturn up. He's had to let go of time. We're now, I think, in a new, completely a different type of time system, unbeknownst to many at this moment. But also, Venus is come, I think, with Neptune to share, hey, this is the time for the spiritual awakening. This is the time for the Pisces energy. But as this is happening, we can see that bang conjunct, as we are recording this now, is the asteroid Yeshua, the Christ consciousness personified or represented in the astrological heavens. And it sat right on top of Neptune and Saturn, all within the same degree in this moment. And then Venus is going to enter that mix as well. So we'll show this on the next chart because it doesn't show it here. But I think this is very interesting, Bella, because many people are in the biblical mode. They're expecting the second coming of the Messiah literally any day at the moment. There's lots of movements in the Middle East, as we all know. Lots of interesting things about the historical elements of the biblical ending to this particular epoch.
And even the talks of using blue beam to make people believe things. So those are things that we need to be aware of and learn to discern within ourselves. Let's remember that the return of the Christ consciousness is all of us waking up and realizing we're all co-creators and we're all part of the energy of what Jesus came to teach 2,000 years ago and many before him. So
and of course it's in Yeshua's own sign here of Pisces, reminding us of the Christ conscious, not so much Jesus the man, because the Christ consciousness is not one individual. Of course, Yeshua, the highest avatar, and Sophia carry that Christo consciousness. And as I understand it, the second coming is from within. The Messiah returns from within us because that consciousness is being birthed within us. If we're expecting some dude called Jesus to appear in the sky and perhaps come to the front door and have a chat, I think it could be a bit of a long wait because it could just be a blue beam operation, as Bella has said. But if you feel that level of consciousness, the Christ consciousness starting to resonate within and to start to communicate with you, then you will know that this is happening for you, because that is how it happens with all levels of consciousness and different beings. Once you are able to maintain the resonant frequency of those beings, they will speak to you.
And I do still believe that we're in the build up to the equinox and to when 3i Atlas connects with Jupiter.
I agree.
From many different sources, it is believed that Jupiter and the moons of Jupiter are actually the places where galactic beings kind of guard the whole solar system. And so if that is the final destination before 3i Atlas leaves the solar system, it seems very symbolic after it did the journey and got close to Mars, close to Venus, close to the sun, close to the Earth even. So now that we have all of the codes, all of the downloads, all of the plasma that reached us, I don't know if you saw the pictures of the jets that were being emitted from 3i Atlas, and some of the pictures are amazing. Now think of the final part of the journey as we go to this biblical moment. So.
Right, and of course, this is all in the context of the Wavespell that we are currently in and recording in. We are recording on the day of the planetary eagle in the Wavespell of the White Well Bridge. We're recording a couple of days early for a whole bunch of reasons, but mostly because we wanted to share this information ahead of time because the sabers are rattling in the ethers and in the 3D, and there is an inevitability to what is about to come. And anyone who's not really paying attention to that perhaps could get caught out a little bit. So we're just, as always, giving the coordinates as we feel them, right, Bella? But
And one of the things that we have been called to do is to realign to the 13. The 13 sign is important because this one is showing us where the planets actually are. If you go outside, you will see the planets in those constellations, not like Western astrology is offset. And so one of the main things in astrology at the moment is that Pluto is still in Capricorn, because everything that is happening is the destruction of the old systems that didn't work, is the profound structural transformation, and the collective authority rebirth, which is what is happening with all of these reset in Aquarius. There is an intense systemic change and death rebirth of responsibility. So I feel that this is actually what we are seeing, not what the Western astrology is telling us that is happening.
right, and also I only realized this after we'd actually put the presentation and the slides together, but there is a second Cazimi during this Wavespell because Pallas Athena is going to get combusted. So we can see that the sun moves a degree every day, and it's just 3 degrees away on the 26th. We can probably estimate around about the 1st of March that the sun is going to combust that very strong female warrior Pallas Athena, which also feels very much of the moment. The rise of the goddess to a balance and equilibrium in her warrior status, because that's what she's needed to be.
And conjunct the North Node, which is where we're all going.
Yes.
So the wise female warrior is the one leading the charge for new humanity and for new earth. And let's remember that Pallas Athena is all about wisdom. So she's bringing innovative wisdom for our destiny as humanity. And the archetype of Athena is the one that supports the leadership. So in Greek times, it was whoever was the emperor, she would be the one that supported the whole town and the government or whatever. But being in Aquarius with the North Node there and with the amount of action that we've had in that degree, it's telling us she's here to support. It's like the great goddess supporting the process of humanity and all of us being equal.
Right, and I think we covered this in the last Wavespell, but just to point out again that Mars is at 0 degrees here and 33 minutes of Aquarius, but Vesta at 23 degrees in this system is just 3 degrees behind. So Mars and Vesta are still in the conjunction. Mars, the god of fire and war and positive action in its higher note, with Vesta also the keeper of the sacred flame. So a lot of that fire energy is there. And when we're working with catalyzing energy, fire is probably the most powerful. And if you mix fire with water properly, you create steam. We had a whole revolution in the world using steam energy because that's how you can create kinetic energy.
And look at that huge stellium in Aquarius. So we
Yes.
have Mars, the Sun, the North Node, Pallas, Athena, and Vesta would be entering as well.
Yeah, in a few
But either
weeks.
way, it's all about new possibilities. It's about a new future, which is blessed by the great goddess as well, with a new charge, innovative wisdom, a future, and the fire horse energy you come through with that.
Right, so I think really, if we can sum it up, it's all systems go. We have the fire energy, we have the lighter fuel in the form of this Wavespell with the catalyzing energy. If not, we have a lunar sun tone with all of these things lined up on the 27th of February to really bring everything into our awareness. We have a full moon lunar eclipse just to make sure that things kick off. And then we've got a Mercury Cazimi. And I mean, look, the evidence is there, I think. If we can feel into the patterns, everything that if we're still in any way looking at what is going on in our collective, which I don't blame you if you're not, it's pretty turgid stuff, but it's stuff that we all need to see because it's shaped every single one of our lives. Everything that we've known in our lives has been touched by what these horrible files are releasing. There's no way in the world, unless you've been a single Bedou in the desert of the Sahara and not seen anyone for 50 years, that this hasn't affected you. And even then, maybe it did. Who knows? So we're going to round out just with the next slide. Just briefly, we've talked a lot about this, but I always like to include the eclipse charts so that people can study them in their own time. I've also included here on the right, just for ease of reference, because this is what brought me into the awareness of Yeshua by the full moon eclipse, having already passed over Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And I think that if Venus is having a big conversation with those two old boys who are managing time and space for us into the new earth, then I would say that Yeshua is hotly on the heels of the goddess and just tidying things up and making sure that everything is exactly that it needs to be, that the goddess's instructions are being adhered to, and that Saturn and Neptune, I would say in some ways they're overseeing this project into the new Earth era. I feel that Neptune is offering us the way forwards, and Saturn to me feels much more comfortable now. Feels like he's relaxed his energy. He's had a long conversation with Neptune in Pisces. So Saturn has been really out of his comfort zone for a while. And now he's sort of like, hey, maybe it's time to hand over this time illusion thing to somebody else because it doesn't seem like it really exists. And I'm the guy who's being blamed for all of that. So maybe I'm just going to let go.
I always see Saturn as the master teacher, that he was put in his place to make sure that all of humanity went through the different initiations and tests and everything that needed to happen, make sure that we pass all of the tests, and now that we can move forward. But he needed to make sure that we complied to many things and had a structure to go through the process. So I would say that it's been a great teaching, and now we can move forward with the rest of the information, with the more Neptunian energy, which again is the higher octave of Venus as well.
Right. So what's also interesting, I'm just spotting, and this is why I sometimes include these charts because it gives us a few other coordinates, is that we can see that Mars and Atlantis are very, very close, and Atlantis sits between Mars and the North Node. So if we transpose this across, Atlantis is sitting.
Beginning of Aquarius.
Is the beginning, beginning of Aquarius. So we see Mars there, and we can see here that Atlantis is 5 degrees on. So it sits at 9 degrees of Aquarius, conjunct both Mars and the North Node, and opposing the South Node. Very interesting, especially with the sun having passed over, illuminating all of this. There's so many flashpoints here, everybody. And if that wasn't exciting enough for you plant people out there, what really caught my attention is that Artemis, the asteroid Artemis, and the progenitor of the Artemisia species, has come into a wide orb conjunction now with Quercus, the master oak. This is exciting for people who know about the Artemises and the oak. These are two very, very powerful guides and species. The oak is really archetype male personification of kingly sacred masculine. And in many ways, Artemis, the Artemisias in general, carry the blueprints of the healers, the divine healers, but very much working with the dragon and serpent energies. Very, very powerful combo. And I imagine when those two come in together, that will be a very interesting masculine and feminine, lunar and solar. The Artemisia is very lunar, the oak very solar. One is a tree, one is a plant, and a very much part of nature's gift and sacred book. So anything else on the final bits and pieces here before we look at the...
Yeah, seeing the moon, vertex, and the south node all conjunct in Leo. So at 24 and 26, 24, 26, and 28 degrees, it tells me that this is everything that we're ready to leave behind, the ending of royalty, the ending of all of the power grabbing, everything that didn't work for us, that didn't help the collective, that didn't nurture us and didn't nurture the planet. So I see this as a whole new, and obviously the sun is in Aquarius, it's telling us this is the future and this is where we're all going, awakening of the masses, new possibilities, technology that is friendly with the earth as well. But we need to go through this wave spell of the storm, and we're inviting you all to just hold space for everybody, for the planet, because it is a necessary catalyzing moment for all of us.
Right, to that. So there are a few other interesting little conjunctions to look at on the blue storm eclipse. Just before we round out, the Orcus, the Oathbreaker, is getting highlighted by this blue moon eclipse. It's in a slightly wide but still conjunction with the moon. Feels important as this epoch comes to an end. All contracts that are no longer viable become null and void as we make the shift. And also down here, Uranus now coming into an out of sign in the, at least in the tropical system, conjunction with Sedna, that planet that exists way out on the elliptical orbit, and I often think somehow relates to the unseen at the very, very periphery, maybe even other what's the word I'm looking for here, civilizations in the universe.
Well, Yes, and that's where Atlantis,
Yes.
the asteroid is very important because it's in Aquarius. And so what I see is that they're marking, there was a point when Atlantis fell because they misused technology and they wanted more power and they made a big mess out of it.
Yeah.
And now we're having a new opportunity of does humanity and governments still choose to go to war and misuse technology, or are we all using the technology to make the planet cleaner, to get people, make them healthier, to clean the water? How are we using the technology? And are we going to repeat a loop, or are we all ready to jump to the higher octave, to the new Earth, to the new timeline, the golden timeline?
Right, so and as we segue into the final piece of today's show, the planet, just going to allude again to the ongoing conjunction. It was at exactitude in the last wave spell, but Chiron and Ceres still within a conjunction of 2 degrees orb, which tells me that we are still very much in the process of healing the wounds of separation from the goddess, which really equals separation from nature, because nature really is fueled by the goddess, and that can also be represented in us. And I think, if anything, Bella, a lot of our work over the last few years has been reminding people of the need to reconnect to nature. And I think now more than ever, because if there's one thing I would like, certainly for myself, to rely on in the new earth, is I want to be able to rely on nature, even if I can't rely on the human constructs of the past, because many of them are faulty and erroneous and built on perhaps lower frequency intentions. Nature just does its thing, and the more that we immerse into nature, the more real it becomes, and the more we learn about the quantum world through nature. For nature is truly quantum, and that's personally for me super exciting.
Yeah. We want to remind at this point that if you want to come and join us in the nature, the sacred book of nature, and if you're a member, you get your 20% discount. And so it's more
That's true,
affordable.
yes. For those of you who don't know, we have a YouTube membership that at $10 a month level, not only do you get the daily mind glyph readings plus a bunch of exclusive content, normally about plants, it also gives you a special code for 20% off any of our courses. Um, so here to round out this particular way spell, I've chosen an old favorite. He's coming into season right now. He is the warrior with equipoise, the one and only Urtica the Yoka, the trusted stinger nettle. Much feared by small children kicking footballs and then falling over in bushes of nettles, as any young lad will tell you from their childhood. But most of all, as you get older, you realize that this is an absolute gold dust plant. Perhaps in terms of plant design, it definitely feels like one of the older plant designs. Now that we're looking at plants differently, Bella's started to explore orchids, and they're pretty far out. But the nettle contains so much goodness. It is an adaptogen, just like Tulsi or ginseng, but is a lot easier to find and is a lot cheaper because it generally just grows in your garden. If you have nettles in your garden, definitely recommend cultivating a nettle stand. Doesn't have to take over, but just keep a little patch. And March to April, March to May is when the nettle tops are at their best. So this is a good time to start looking for them. They are full of nutrients and minerals, really, really good for you. You can also make great food for your garden by just steeping nettles in a watering can for a few days. It's excellent for cleansing the body on all levels. But most of all, the reason I wanted to share this is that energetically, this plant is able to fortify our boundaries so that we don't have to absorb other people's stuff. I would say during this way spell that that's going to be pretty important because other people's stuff will come to you in the form of slimings and sheddings, but most of all, probably projections with triggering narratives behind them.
Mhm.
Uh, People are not going to be able to control themselves. If you don't want to be a part of that, have a chat with Nettle, sort out your boundaries, and decide what you're willing to put up with and what you're not willing to put up with.
Especially if you're very empathic. So,
Yes, yeah, for all of you empaths out there, it's already hard enough, I know. So this is really a way of reinforcing our boundaries. Make sure to call in Nettle to assist you in protection. It makes a difference. You don't necessarily want to or need to be receiving every empathic frequency that comes in. It could be a little too much for those of you that are super sensitive. Um, but the good thing about nettle, and that's why I recommend it, is A, you can drink nettle every day. It doesn't make any difference. The wonderful Miller Reaper drunk nettle tea every day in his cave for 20 years, and he came out not only with a green halo, but he came out apparently with green hair and green skin. That is what happens if you sit and drink nettle every day in a cave, a sensory deprivation tank for 20 years. You will become enlightened. Or Perhaps you can find a quicker way these days by opening nature's gift and starting to receive the messages from Nettle and other plants, or maybe just make yourself a Nettle tea and have that conversation directly. It is excellent for meditation. For many years, I had a Nettle tea meditation practice. First of all, because Milarepa showed the way, what was possible, but also what I found was that Nettle calms the whole system down because it's an adaptogen and wants to bring you into balance. Hence why this is the warrior with equipoise. He knows how to keep himself balanced. There is a very strong Mars energy to Nettle as well, very much the energy of the Roman centurion in many ways. It stands like the Romans did, you know, in those kinds of lines. It's a very interesting plant with a lot to offer, but most of all, it's about coming back to the center and being in equilibrium in your nice boundaried space, which should feel like, oh, that's good. Should be like that. That's what Nettle will help you with, even just in a 15-minute
So
meditation.
you're going to replace the coffee with Nettle, is that the key?
I like to drink Nettle tea. It's actually very palatable. It's full of chlorophyll, super green. It
And
tastes
it regenerates the soil. It's really good to let it
It's
grow.
really good for the garden. It's also really good as part of the biosystem, attracts ladybirds and all kinds of other insects. It's really difficult to find anything bad to say about nettle, despite the fact that it gives you a sting or a rash if you happen to brush up against it. But that also
It's
has
good for circulation.
it's good for rheumatism and arthritis. So even when it does you what feels like a wrong to you, it's not really, it's helping. Plants are amazing. And I see this quote here, which with Milarepa, which is why I included this picture rather than others. I wash off human scandal by devotion true, and by my zeal I satisfy the deities. By compassion I subdue the demons. All blame I scatter to the wind, and upward turn my face. And you will always see Milarepa like this, the thousand songs of Milarepa. Very much celebrated, ascended master in Tibetan Buddhism. But what I like about him is he started out as a bad guy and he went through his processes. He was a bad sorcerer and saw the error of his ways after many trials and initiations. I think this is a perfect figurehead, perhaps to look at some people who may have done bad things in the world, but maybe also have turned a new leaf at some point. A lot to learn from Nettle, a lot to learn from Milarepa. And also, if you're into plants, as we finish out today's session, please do head over to the quantumplanet.world website, where we have a quantum plant alchemy group. And in the coming weeks, I plan to be doing some special sort of 1 hour deep dives into the spring plants, which will include primrose, cleavers, probably nettle too, and one or two other little surprises. So if you want to catch those, please do head over to the group. And if you've made it this far into the video, you will get a golden banana. In the comments, if you put something, hit like and subscribe too. But I'm sure if you made it this far, you've already done that a long time ago. Any final thoughts, Bella?
Well, it's a big wave spell, and let's remember that we do the navigation so that we know how to go through with the energies. Everything has a higher octave. Everything is going to teach us a lesson. And if there are many changes and a lot of, media information, misinformation, and more of the same, just find your peaceful place. And as the monks were teaching us, every day find a little space to be peaceful, at least 5-10 minutes a day, journal, write down, today is my peaceful day, bless the others, bless yourself, saying, may you be peaceful, may you be well, may you be happy, and say it to yourself as well.
Aho to all of that. I think staying centered, staying grounded, and staying boundaried are fundamentals for this next 2 weeks. I'd say in general, but particularly during these next 2 weeks. So, with all of this in mind, we wish all of our brothers and sisters out there safe passage through the storm. If you're watching this, I think that you're probably pretty set. Many of you might even have done the Eye of the Storm immersion, where we got to kind of go through the role play of this ahead of time in the last Tzolkin. So, some of us have an idea of the direction of travel here. For those of you that don't have faith in your higher self, have faith in the powers that be that came to assist, and trust that there are other beings here on the planet who've got this. We've all got this. We all agreed to come in and do this together. It's truly a we did this kind of a moment.
Yeah.
And once we get beyond the storm, we'll know that we did this. Every one of us has played their part. So with that in mind, in Lakesh,
In Lakesh.
see you on the other side.